Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I'm Marina Hatsopoulos from the Hellenic Innovation Network. The Hellenic Innovation Network, with the support of the Greek Consulate of Boston and MIT Enterprise Forum Greece, was created to build a bridge to the US for Greek technology startups through pitching and networking events. I invite you to register at hellenic.org, and you can learn more about our upcoming events, such as the October event on innovation in agriculture. As an entrepreneur, you're always driving towards something. It could be customers, it could be growth in revenues, it can be profitability, but overriding all of these drives is a push to exit. And just 2 weeks ago, we saw the biggest exit in Greece. InstaShop was acquired by Delivery Hero for $360 million. Exit creates a virtuous cycle where exited entrepreneurs create new startups and invest in other startups. Greece is still in the earliest stages of entrepreneurship, but it's starting to happen, and we're going to hear more about the journey from these entrepreneurs who are speaking to us today. I invite you to send in your questions during the event, and I'd like to introduce to you now Stratos Efthimiou, the Consul General of Greece in Boston, without whose wonderful support, none of this would be possible. Thank you, Stratos.
Thank you, Marina, and always glad to be here from the Consulate General of Greece in Boston to support our networking efforts. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to Myrto, Aimilios, Conno, Cosma, and George, and praise each one of them for their exciting success stories in the demanding tech industry. We have here 4 bright examples of tech innovation in the fields of synthetic speech technology, optimization of mobile ad revenue, high performance, low power graphics IP, innovation in robotics. I'm personally thrilled to hear what were your strategic choices about how to win and where to play. How can Greek startups find their position in the international value chain? Last but not least, is exit an end itself? Was there a different alternative from exit during this journey? We have a lot to learn from your successful stories, which show that Greek startups can be globally competitive, finding their position in the international value chain. Vassilis, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Strata. Thank you, Marina, and thank all of our friends that they joined for this very interesting webinar today to learn more about their journey to the from a small Greek startup to an international exit. Something that a few years ago may have sounded like a joke, but it's not anymore. So it is a great pleasure to be with you today. Just a quick note about MIT Enterprise Forum. We have just finished a very interesting year with our finals last June. You can check our new website to see the winners, and we're gearing up for a very interesting year with a new competition. So if you want to apply as a startup, or you want to join as a mentor or a judge for the coming edition, please go online and check what we are doing. Before handing it over, I would like to welcome Myrto Papathanou, who is going to moderate our discussion today. Myrto is a founding partner of Metalpalon VC, and she has a very long experience in the fields of finance and entrepreneurship, both in Greece and abroad. She sits on the board of several of the startups that they have invested in, and a few other non-profits. So without further ado, I would like to hand it over to Myrto so she can lead to a very interesting discussion. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Vassilis, Marina, and Stratos for the introduction, also for organizing the session. I think it's extremely interesting to have these speakers on board. I'm very looking forward to moderating the discussion. What I would like to do today is have all the speakers introduce themselves. So I will give the floor to them for a minute or so to just say who they are and what their company is working on. Then I will proceed with the Q&A, and I would encourage everyone in the audience as well to please use the Q&A button on the bottom of your screen to address any questions, and I'll try to address them to the speakers at the end of the session. Yeah, I will also leave some time to discuss additional issues that may come about. Stratos mentioned a few things, for example, the exit being the end or the beginning of a journey, which I also think is very interesting. So without further ado, I will ask Conno to introduce himself. You're on mute, Conno.
Right, that's better now. Thanks, Myrto. Thanks for introducing us as well. So yeah, I'm very excited to be on this call. Thanks for the invitation, MIT Enterprise Forum and the Hellenic Network. So yeah, I'm Conno. I'm one of the 4 co-founders of Avocarrot. Avocarrot is a native advertising platform. We started the company along with 3 other friends back in 2013, and in 2016 the company was acquired by Glispa Global Group, and since then we joined the company. It's been 3 months now that myself and the other 3 co-founders, we left the company. We're taking a break, a detox break, no screens break. This is just an exception that we're making now, but I'm super happy that I'm on this call. And yeah, that's it. Now, in a couple months' time, we'll regroup again and see what's the next big or small thing that we're going to be starting again.
Great to hear, and some news about the next thing coming up, I guess. Aimilios, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation and for the introduction as well. And for the effort that this forum is doing. It's a great opportunity to show to people all this great stuff. I'm Aimilios Chalamandaris. Together with 3 co-founders, we had founded Innoetics in 2007. Officially 2006, but 2007 was the first year of the company. It was a spin-off company from a research center, from the research center Athena and the Institute of Speech and Language Technology. And since 2017, we were acquired by Samsung Group, Samsung Electronics. And since then, now we are a part of Samsung. We are the R&D division of Samsung in Greece. And since then, we are the group that actually powers the text-to-speech technology for the entire group and the ecosystem of devices and services for Samsung.
Great. And last but not least, George, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Myrto. I hope we are going to have an interesting call here, and I'm very glad to be here with you. I'm 𝐓𝐢𝐦𝐞𝐫𝐬. I started my career back in 2002, working as an IC engineer for Atmel in Patras, Greece. And we were designing Wi-Fi chipsets for Atmel. And then back in 2007, with pure engineering background, we started 𝐒𝐻𝐞𝐬𝐿 along with 𝐓𝐢𝐭𝐚𝐦𝐩𝐬, my partner. We are developing very low power graphics processors, mainly for wearables and smart IoT devices. We spent a lot of years developing the technology, trying to build a customer base. And just last April, we've been acquired by Applied Materials. And now we start to realize how it is to be part of a big corporation.
Great. I will follow up on that in just a minute, just to tell the audience that Cosma Pabouctsidis will also be joining us in a little bit. He's running somewhat late, but he will be with us shortly. So George, I will start with what you just mentioned about your recent exit, because your company is the one that got acquired last from the 3 founders we have here. So what are you working on right now, and how is your reality different to what you were doing working at the beginning of your journey for Greece?
We continue working on the same products and technologies, trying to get more customers, increase our customer base and the revenues. So we are doing practically what we were doing before the acquisition, obviously with a bigger budget. So we have the opportunity to grow the business and the team faster. But we have a huge overhead of which comes with the integration to the big corporation. So practically we are working 2 shifts, one the Greek shift and then one the US shift, because we start all the calls at 5 p.m. Greek time when California wakes up.
Okay. It sounds challenging, but I understand you're also growing the team at the moment in both Patras and Athens, right?
That's correct. We have a very ambitious plan to grow the team in order to support the customers and the new products.
Okay, that sounds great. Over to you, Conno, if I may. So what made you start your own business to begin with, and what were your first steps in entrepreneurship, and also what challenges and what hurdles you had to overcome to get to a point where the company was growing and it seemed to be attracting interest?
Yeah, sure. So, okay, long question. I'll try to reply to everything. First of all, why did we start? So I've always been wanting to start something with the other three guys. I know them since back in the military when we were 18 years old. We've spent 25 months together. Then we jumped to the same university together. We're doing a lot of projects. We're joining a lot of hackathons for free beer and pizzas. And one of them, we developed an app just for fun. We got an award in a hackathon, and we thought, okay, how do we make money from this app right now? So what we did is that we try several advertising solutions that existed back then. Nothing really worked back in the time. So we thought, okay, why don't we develop something just to make it a little bit better, not as a platform, but just as a tool for us to make more money from advertising. After a few iterations, it worked. We gave it to a few other developers. They also saw a lot of value. So we thought, okay, let's ditch the app development side of things and let's develop this as a platform for other app developers to make money from less intrusive forms of advertising. And that's how we started, really. Then we went through the conventional path of startups, raising money, moving to San Francisco, etc., etc. And Greece came to the plan actually a bit afterwards. So we started this in London, then moved to San Francisco to get money. There's also some cool stories there. If we have time, I can share more details about that as well. And then we came to Athens just because we found the first hire here, and probably was the best decision ever. Yeah, there's a lot of good things to build a company and a team here. There's a lot of benefits, and yeah, I'm super happy that we made that move.
Great, and I guess it's interesting you mentioned that because that's one of the amazing benefits that I personally find, and a lot of the entrepreneurs echo that of Greece, is like the amazing technical talent that there is, a very strong product side, and increasingly becoming stronger on the business acumen and marketing side. And maybe Aimilios can comment on that. How has he found recruiting people? Yours as well, Emilia, was a company that started back in 2007, as you mentioned. So already a long cycle to maturity, of course, very IP heavy, R&D heavy, deep tech. How have you found it finding talent and nurturing talent and recruiting talent in Greece?
So now, since the acquisition, Innoetics' character has changed. So we have left the market. We do not sell any products, and the main, let's say, client of ours is Samsung Electronic Group. So our main hires now are engineers and scientists, data scientists, and ML scientists. So at the beginning, we started looking into senior people, but we found out that there is no, let's say, big relationship between senior machine learning people and speech processing people. And we saw that if you're an engineer and you are good at one thing, you most probably are going to become good in a different thing. So we decided to start from more junior people. And so what we're looking at now is that we are starting internships with, let's say, people from the university or people who have just graduate from the university. And then through these internships, we just try to find out whether they match the team, whether they match the targets of the team. And if they do, we just try to keep them and give them more incentives to stay on and become, as full-time employees. So, I mean, from our side, since we are looking into deep tech engineers and scientists, we try to nurture them, to take them from juniors and build them as good engineers together within our team.
And maybe it's a question both to you, Amelia, and George, if you want to comment. How are you finding people? I mean, over the years of the crisis, of course, there was a big brain drain. There were a lot of people leaving the country, especially on the engineering side, on highly specialized jobs, and everything that had to do with software technology, innovation was kind of gone. How are you finding? Are you finding the trend reversing? Are you finding people are staying? How are you viewing the country in terms of talent at the moment? Maybe Amelia, you can start off, and George can answer too.
Sure. From our side, we started initially with specific, let's say, not exhibitions, but conferences that we tried to find a pool of young people who have, let's say, the interest to start something like this, to work as an intern to a good company like ours. So, for example, we started with a TEDx at the university, the Technical University of Athens. Conferences like this, we started to, let's say, advertise our company, advertise the internships. And of course, after we found a few good, let's say, interns, then there is always the word of mouth. So people who want to work to a good environment and people who want to work in this kind of, let's say, endeavors, they, they communicate with each other. So this word of mouth works really well in this kind of, let's say, community.
George?
I think we have two parts here. There is a critical mass of very good engineers in Greece, both junior engineers that are coming out of the universities, but also engineers that are working in other high-tech companies. So it's not that easy, but you can find very good engineers. And I think now also we are facing the positive side of the brain drain, because we have a lot of engineers that left the company, worked for big corporations in Europe and the US, and now they want to come back. And they are coming back with a much deeper expertise and knowledge in what they are doing, because they are coming back from big corporations like Intel or ARM or other companies, bringing know-how and other things that they couldn't have built all these years staying in Greece. So I think we can have a very good combination of young engineers out of the universities and highly experienced Greek engineers coming back from abroad.
Yeah, I think it's a very important point, and I think Marina mentioned at the introduction as well that in order for people to come back, you have to create the circumstances, and the circumstances, especially this year, seems to be that there are companies exiting, there are multinationals coming in the country, so the opportunities are there for people with experience to come back. So maybe that's also a question for you, Conno. Like, have you seen when you started working at a multinational level, did you see the Greek element of your side? You mentioned was a great choice, but did your clients and eventually the multinational that acquired you, that approach for acquisition, did they view it as an asset, as a liability, or kind of neutrally?
Yeah, good question. So basically, at the beginning, actually, it was the first time they invested in Greece. So we had to create a business plan to kind of convince them that this was a right move and a sane move to do. Back in 2016, there was a weird brand in Greece, both in terms of crisis and in terms of a lot of stuff back then. So yeah, that was a bit of a challenge, because at the beginning, the company wanted to move us either to Berlin, London, or Israel, where they had other offices nearby. So we won that argument and won that thing just because we showed them a way that not only Greek talent has nothing to be jealous about comparing to Silicon Valley, New York, or Tel Aviv in terms of talent, but also, okay, it's a lower cost to acquire, but something that not a lot of people discuss about is that people here in Greece are very loyal to their companies. So as I'm sure many people in this call know, usually, especially in the US, people tend to jump from one job to another every 18 to 24 months to capitalize on the experience and other stuff. So this thing in Greece doesn't happen. I'm sure Aimilios has people, you're like 10 years now in the company. I'm sure you have people more than, I don't know, 6-7 years, just because they love the mission, they engage with the team, the journey. So yeah, that's extremely important, especially if you want and you invest in company stability, you want loyal people, you have to invest in retention. And this is a very good thing that you can find in Greece compared to other countries. And that's and that paid off. I mean, the company continued to invest. We grew from 17 to 40 people in a couple of years. So yeah, that paid off.
Great. I think it's a great point on work ethic. Here in general, you mentioned the loyalty of people, and they don't have a big propensity to switch companies, which is a huge problem in the US and other hubs. I think the kind of feeling of ownership here is also very high. So people that are working for companies, especially small ones, have a high degree of ownership. So I guess that's a positive side from Greece. Were there hurdles that you had to overcome with the multinationals coming in? As you said, I think for all of them, it was their first investment in Greece. Were there hurdles that you had to overcome in both the process and in kind of getting them to say? Conno mentioned they had to win the argument. Emilia, what was your experience?
Our experience was quite, like a dream come true, to be honest. And most probably it could be, like an exception to the rule. But we had a few hurdles, but not, let's say, between ourselves, and Samsung, or in the relationship between, the two parties. There were a few hurdles back then during the acquisition, like so much bureaucracy, which I hope that now has been minimized. But back then, I remember that it took us something like a few weeks' time to finish, some typical, let's say, contracts and things, with the notary and so on. But aside from the bureaucracy, I think the rest worked really well. And to be honest, we had also to guide, let's say, the other party along all these hurdles, and together, with the lawyers, our lawyers and Samsung lawyers, we had to overcome, all these kind of things. Aside from this, we didn't have to negotiate a lot, about whether to stay in Greece or, let's say, the next steps, of the acquisition. I think we pretty much, like clicked to each other very well. And the flow, of the deal with us was quite easy to do it. Yeah.
Great. And as we talk about the recent acquisitions and exits, I mean, since 2007, we've seen a few companies exiting. This year alone, the last 4 months, we've seen 4 acquisitions. Think Silicon, of course, and Applied Materials, Automotive, and Microsoft. InstaShop being acquired by Delivery Hero, and the investment in Scrooge, the e-commerce side. Is there a critical mass of entrepreneurs becoming what's happening now at the country? Is there a virtuous cycle that's being developed? Is that what you're seeing? Maybe it's a question to George.
This needs to be proven, Myrto. Yes, we have some signs that something is changing, but it's up to us to prove that we are going to monetize our experience in order to move the whole ecosystem one step forward.
How does that practically happen, in your opinion? So how you have the acquisitions, and maybe again, like for a lot of companies, this is not the end. It's actually the continuation under a different hat, right? And different circumstances. How do you see that coming back to the whole, like sending the elevator down and kind of feeding the new startups, the new innovations, and kind of the new entrepreneurs?
Are you asking me?
Yes, I'm asking.
I think I'm too young in the corporate environment to go from now on to the next step. For us, the big bet now is how to accomplish to meet our targets, because we have some very high targets for the next years, both in the business side and in the team growing side, which is even a bigger bet compared to the acquisition, because it's very good that we managed to sell the company, but at the end of the day, in the long term, what counts is how many engineering positions we can have in Greece from big multinational companies, and they will help the ecosystem and the other startups that we or others are going to create in the future. So we need a critical mass of big corporations to be based in Greece, for several reasons, for business reasons, for talent building reasons. There's a number of reasons that we need the whole ecosystem. So we sold the company, but now we have an even bigger bet to grow the company to a substantial number during the next 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, great, agreed. And there's actually a relevant question from Andreas in the audience, which maybe we can take now, and I'll address it to Aimilios. Also welcoming Cosmas on the panel. Thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you here. And the question is, Emilia, is like with regards to kind of remuneration and the cost of engineering and salaries, of course, do the lower salaries, probably lower increase, hinder the reverse of the brain drain and kind of attracting talented people back, in your experience?
Well, this is, the cost of living in Greece and the remuneration levels is an incentive for both parties, let's say the employees and the companies. So, for example, people would say that Innoetics managed to stay in Athens and build an R&D division in Athens and so on. But aside from all the benefits for the team and for Samsung that is building a critical mass of engineers and scientists in Athens, is also it has to do with the actual cost of the company for all these engineers. So, for example, engineers like the ones who exist in our team would cost 3 or 4 times the amount in the Silicon Valley. But then again, these costs would not be that, let's say, beneficial to the people in the Bay Area. So it's still for Greece, this level of salaries is, let's say, attractive to big companies, but I think still is a big incentive for both parts, both employees and companies to come here and grow, the base.
Great. I think that covers a lot of it. Like, I would like to ask Conno, actually, because he's one of the entrepreneurs that is, I guess, just ended their path at the corporate side. So you built a company, you sold it, you spent time on the multinational, and then I'm assuming you're starting again. Can you tell us how you intend to be active in Greece, and can you tell us a few things about how you seen today's ecosystem differ from when you started the company and even when you exited?
Yeah, sure. So there's a big difference, to be honest. There's more maturity, of course, in the startup ecosystem in terms of understanding and talent and the acumen around it. Now in terms of the big corporate life, at least for us, the tasks were different at the beginning. When you do your own thing, you start your own thing and you grow it. It's all about product, tech, hustling, marketing, hiring, growing the team. Whereas at least in our case, in the big corporation, there's other stuff as well. There's hierarchy, there's stuff that matters internally between teams, between different offices, politics management. There's all this other stuff. It's a good learning. Over the last 4 years, we've learned a lot. But yeah, I look so much forward to jumping in again to start the next thing. Now, in terms of if I'm doing it in Greece, the answer is a big yes, primarily because of the great team that someone can build here. There's a lot of great people, there's a lot of talent, good talent. And as Aimilios said, it's both low cost and it's also a lifestyle arbitrage, I like to call it here. The money that someone makes here compared to the cost and the benefits that you get because of the weather, because of the nice stuff that Greece can give you, and being in the middle of Europe, I think there's a lot of good stuff that at least in my mind makes sense. The single most important thing though is the team. I love building the team here, and I will do it again anytime.
Great. I'll jump over to Cosma. Cosma, if you want to quickly introduce yourself, tell us a bit about you as a person, then also your company. I know it's also the kind of high IP deep tech side, so would love to hear that, and then some of your views on how things are now in Greece with regards to technology companies.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm unmuted, good. Okay, so yeah, I'm Cosma Pabouctsidis. As you can see, I have a Greek name, but actually I was born and raised in Switzerland. I moved to the USA when I was 23 because at the time this was the Silicon Valley, and I was going to go make millions. I actually landed in the Silicon Desert in Arizona, close enough. But I did a career mostly in semiconductors. So I was working for Myrto Semiconductor. After a few years, I quit because I saw I could not make it into millions by being an employee. So I said that let's start the US branch of a Swiss startup. And I did that for a number of years. It was successful. But again, at the end of the day, the Swiss company was not all that strong. So there was a limit to that. So I went back to the semiconductor industry. And in around 2002, I started a company called Roboteq. Roboteq makes essentially motor controls for the mobile robot industry. So this was a side project for many years. So if you're asking how do you fund a startup, well, one way is to actually have a job during the day that pays your bills, and another one that basically has a chance to fulfill your dreams. So I would still encourage that as an approach. It's not the fastest track because, of course, you can only do the other thing part-time and you can only put so much money into your venture. But at the end of the day, that was a pretty successful enterprise. So in 2005, I moved back to Europe. I moved to Switzerland. I actually stayed with a dual job until 2013. So again, a long time to be into this startup phase, but it was pretty successful after that. It grew. And one thing that was interesting in 2015, as I was looking for more help, and I said, hey, let's look at Greece. So this was my Greek fiber calling and say, okay, let's find out what kind of talent we can find. I was fortunate enough to find a very good engineer who helped me. And for a long time was just him and I doing the R&D, and we had a team doing the production in America. A breakthrough kind of happened in 2018, and that's when I was able to convince my partner that instead of buying or recruiting people in America that were expensive and not always the value for the money, to invest in Greece. And by the way, if you remember, that was also the time where Tesla had opened an R&D office. So one thing, the other, we decided to open an office in Athens. Running the movie fast forward, we got acquired by a big Japanese company called Nidec. So this is not known, but they are very big, $15 billion company, 100,000 people, multinational, and they make electric motors. So anyway, it was a very successful sale, not just for me, because again, I did okay, obviously, but I was really looking for a buyer that would buy into the idea of investing in Greece. And Greece turned out to be a major element into the sales pitch, the reason why they bought into the company. When they bought it, they also immediately turned on the money faucet, and we went from essentially 4 people to 15 today. And the reason we're not more is because we had the coronavirus that kind of put a break into the growth. But anyway, so this was a very happy marriage. And I would say that is the buyer, this Japanese company, is extremely happy with the purchase and what we're able to bring with that Greece office. Essentially, what we found is things that we know, but they did not know, because obviously Greece is not, well, I should say obviously, but yeah, I would say obviously, it's not the automatic place that you would think as a place to put investment for high tech. Again, wrong perception, but this was the case. What we found is that we extremely talented people. As we know, there's a lot of emphasis put in education, both by the state and the parents that often bleed themselves to send their kids to school. And the result is that we have had just a terrific talent pool to pick fantastic talent for. So we're able to grow the team, not only fast, because anybody can grow fast, but fast with quality. Go ahead.
No, I think it's an amazing intact with the, you know, like the speed and also kind of like the value for money engineering that you're getting. So very, very talented people growing
Right.
there. And I guess it also leads me to the next question, which is for all of you doing high-tech companies, which is there an opportunity for Greece, in addition to the specific cases, to develop as a hub for sectors? So, for example, Aimilios with text-to-speech, or the semiconductors with both Cosma and George are active on. And what are the missing ingredients? And maybe I'll address the question to George, because I haven't spoken to him in a while. So what is missing for Greece to become, let's say, a hub in specific sectors? And is the semis that you're active in one of them?
Yes, I can speak only for my sector. We are missing successes. So we are missing some exits. And I see a lot of questions from the audience about if the exit is the end, or there is another opportunity or another alternative. I think the main question there was if we can keep the company in Greece and grow the company and make an IPO, do other things. We need to build a lot of things in order to reach this level. So we need to have more exits. We need to have more multinational companies based in Greece. We need to increase the critical mass of the engineering team here in Greece. And then we can talk about different things. So currently in Greece, we are something like, I don't know, 300-400 engineers in the semiconductor industry, even more. We need to grow that. In order to grow that, we need more investments. We need more multinational companies to invest in Greece and grow this business. And then we can start discussing about a pure Greek company that could grow with the terms and not in the Greek environment. So we need to focus abroad, as all these startups are doing, and build a Greek company that maybe will be very big and sell worldwide. Maybe I'm not that specific, but we need to do a lot of steps in order to create a hub in Greece. So I think we've made some first steps. We have a critical mass, but we need much more work and effort from years in order to create a hub.
Yeah, I think what you're discussing is the natural process of an ecosystem growing, right? That's why you have an immature ecosystem, because first there's no funding, there is no entrepreneurs, there are no exits, and there are no people. And as soon as this starts changing, and of course all the elements need to start being there, then it can kind of roll and start happening to a larger scale, and maybe it's an opportunity for hubs as well, which I think is a great insight. Then I guess in terms of what we're discussing about Greece, and I'll address some of the questions from the audience as well. I want to ask you all, and I'll start with Conno, kind of looking back at your entrepreneurial journey, is there anything you would do differently? And do you have any advice for people starting out now, either in Greece or considering Greece as a hub and R&D center?
Yeah, well, we've done tons of mistakes. Well, on one side, if you haven't done those mistakes, then you wouldn't have learned. But yeah, for example, funding, the first one took us 6 months to get, the second one took us 2 months, and the third one took us a couple of weeks. So there's a lot of stuff that we would do differently on fundraising. Another thing that I wish I would have done earlier is starting building the team in Athens like a year before when comparing to when I started. Yes, that's a cliche because we're talking about that all the time. But I think if we moved here in 2014 or earlier than that, the growth would have been bigger. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff, but at the end of the day, yes, experience matters because you do less and fewer mistakes. But at the same time, even if you're the most experienced guy in the world, if you don't start and you don't take actions, then it doesn't matter. So just go in, and the good times will come. Yeah, that's it.
Great, and I guess also a similar question to Cosma as well, because again, we're discussing engineers becoming entrepreneurs, right? So as an engineer, starting your own company and setting off on that journey, which has a lot of other things added to the usual engineering problem-solving tasks. So business development, talking about funding, eventually negotiating an exit. How easy was it for you, and what do you advise for fellow technical founders who are embarking on this journey?
Well, of course, it's not easy, but I would say the single most important thing is hard work, and it's persistence. Because when you do something like that, you dig in the dark for a long time, and you don't know for sure that the light, how far the light is at the end of the tunnel. So I guess if anything, yeah, you have to have the talent, you have the time, you have to have the idea, you have to have the resources, but the important thing is persistence. I would say the single most important. I mean, I've seen so many people having ideas and they never sit down to work. I mean, you have to be prepared to work basically 24-hour days, almost 7 days a week for at least for a while. I don't know if I'm the only one here who believes that, but I would imagine that all of us here have put a humongous amount of effort and sacrificed a lot of things to get where we are.
And Emilio, on your side, was there a time that you thought, I'm working so hard, I'm putting everything on this journey, and it is not happening? Were you tempted to give up, or were you tempted to I don't know, throw the ball in?
Yeah, well, as Cosmas said, I mean, when you when you are an entrepreneur, a startupper, most of the times you just do a lot of sacrifices. You work like 24/7. You even make sacrifices, in your salaries and so on. You have to have, a second day job in order to pay the bills, and then work for the startup. But in any case, I think all of us and all startuppers coming to a point that it's self-reflective. I mean, you just think whether you should go on, whether there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and so on. I think, and I think I've said it already too many times, but this is the part, that I think is, let's say, the lesson learned from our side, that we succeeded mostly because we were resilient, and we were a good team together. We were working together very well, and because we were focusing, at least when we had to focus, we were focused on our vision and on our dream. So no matter how big the sacrifice was, as long as we kept on doing those three things, I think that was the main, let's say, catalyst for working things out.
Great. Those are all great points from all of you. Thank you. So we're almost coming up to the end, but I would like, if everyone's okay, to extend it by another 10 minutes. Our discussion, maybe address some of the questions from the audience. So one question from Christine is that Christine says that if despite what Conno said about the work ethic and of Greeks, there is an adverse reputation due to past history. And the question is, how do we change the narrative and make Greece as one of the big important hubs like Silicon Valley or Israel or Chennai, etc. And maybe that's I will ask Cosma to answer that to begin with.
Yeah, I don't think we have to change anything. I think we have it. The work ethics that we found from our people is first class, no question about it. It's just a well-kept secret. And in fact, what I'm trying to do now, you see, NIDEC has 100,000 people, and they have now 15. But could they have 100? Could they have 500? Could they have 1,000? Would it make a dent? Of course not. So the question now, how do I convince NIDEC to put 1,000 people here? I mean, if it's good value to put 20, it's even better value to put 2,000, right? So how do I do that? And the only way I can do that by example, is to do a good job and have that stuff known. Now, the other thing I've been trying to do is to get the politicians involved. I've been establishing some reports with the Department of, I think it's Interior, the Commerce, External, Foreign Ministry. So there's a program called Develop Greece, or I forgot the name. And I've been trying to say, hey, why don't you guys meet the NIDEC people? Why don't your politician meet the NIDEC management? And let me arrange that for you. And anyway, this is what we kind of got going, and unfortunately, the coronavirus put a dent on our plans. But I would say that we have a terrific story, and we have to show by example. And I think, I need to show to my partners, to my owners, what we can do, and but we have to also publicize all those success stories. I think there are more and more of them. I think the word has to go out. The thing is that there's no obstacle. Many years ago, if you had to have a hub in Greece, it was difficult. But now with the internet, who knows or even cares where you are? If you have a good connection, then put it actually where it's nice to live. And I think Greece is a fantastic place for that. Let it be known.
Great. And George, I guess do you have some insight on that? Like you're just trying to build the team now, and I guess also internally with Applied Materials discussing how big the team will be, etc. Is there something that you see that can change the narrative both internally towards the company and kind of to the outside world? So, other big multinationals considering Greece?
Yes, we are facing this challenge now. And for example, now we're closing our first 4 hires, and 3 are coming from abroad. I don't agree actually with Christina's comment about the reputation, I'm referring to the professionals. So the reputation of the Greek engineers, as long as I remember back from 2000, we have a very good reputation, both in Greece and outside. So we continue to prove that we are very good engineers. We are delivering on time with very high quality. And I'll also comment on another comment about the lower salary. I would argue that the salaries comparable, if you compare the salary to the cost of living, are that lower compared to the rest of the Europe, at least.
Okay, great. Then I will also try to address Andrea's question to all the panelists, but I'll start with Conno. And we touched upon this a bit earlier, but let's be more explicit. When you started the company, was the goal to sell it and move out? I don't know if Conno can still hear us. You're on mute.
Thanks. Just joined again from my phone, so I didn't hear anything. I missed the last.
Yeah. So the question was, when you started the company, like, did you see the goal as to sell it and selling it and staying in, or selling it and living out after a while, as you're doing now? What was the goal at the beginning?
Okay, so yeah, well, at the beginning it's just was just our passion, creating stuff from an idea to making something out of it, growing bigger and bigger. That was fun. Yeah, we indeed had a mission. We stick to that. Of course, it changed a little bit, but the grand vision was the same. Yeah, after well, it's not about. Of course, if you're taking money from investor, even €1, dollar, whatever it is, you need to have some sort of exit to return the money, hopefully multiple, to the investors. Now, if you're sticking to the company, it really depends. It really depends on each case. So, we felt that after 7 years of advertising technology within that specific space, we closed the circle. We still think that we can give value to other endeavors as well. So that's exciting and fun to look forward to. So long story short, it's you don't create a company to sell it. Yes, that's a good scenario, but at the end of the day, what stays, it's in the journey, the personal growth, the people that you meet, the connections, and yes, if the exit comes, which I hope it to all the companies, is great.
And moving to Aimilios, continuing on that theme, but also addressing kind of like a question from Dimitris that has to do with the acquisition process. Conno mentioned the investors and advisors, etc. Your company was bootstrapped, so you didn't have kind of a like path that was traveled before in terms of how you kind of approach potential acquirers, etc. Do you want to tell us a few more things about the process? How did it happen for you? How did the process go, etc.?
Yes, well, we were indeed a bootstrap company, so that made it, let's say, the exception again to the rule, because as I said, we were a 10-year-old startup company before we were acquired. So that means that it took us quite a long time to become, let's say, attractive to an acquirer, and also quite a long time for us to be self-trained how to become a startupper. Because we were researchers, we were engineers, we started a startup company, and we started it without having, let's say, the focus at the beginning and so on. So again, if something I think we did wrong, or at least we didn't do it very quickly, was that we didn't look quickly for an investment. And that's why it took us quite a while, to become, let's say, attractive to a company.
And that's why you said that you had a second job to sustain yourself. Take investment, man, come on.
Exactly. But I think this is something. It's a trade-off all the time. But again, I think if you get an investment, you have to follow a path. You have to follow some steps, and then it makes you, let's say, a more conventional. But then again, you have to go by the book in the startup, let's say, community. Now that I have the floor, I would like also to answer, let's say, another question about how Greece could become a hub of a big and deep tech companies and so on. And I think this has to do with also building a connection of the university industry. And in order to do so, you have to, aside from putting a lot of money to research and so on, you have to also build a mentality within these institutions, research centers, universities, and so on, in order for the researchers to become, let's say, entrepreneurs. And this has to do, it's a big, let's say, path towards it, but I think this is, let's say, the best way to do it.
Great. I think it's a great point as well. And just since you're on the company of an investor as well, and I see Conno smiling too, I think one of the good things that's happening is that there is availability of risk capital in the country now. So for the first time, there's enough capital for entrepreneurs to seek it. I think you all mentioned, is this the right choice for your company and your growth? That's another discussion that you have to have with yourself and your business partners. But at least it's there, which wasn't the reality even 3 years ago. And I think that also helps, especially the early stage and seed idea side. So we're coming up to the end, so I'm going to wrap this conversation up. I think there were some great points. So I think the things that I have kept is that, first of all, that there seem to be advances in the ecosystem. There are advances in terms of the companies, there are advances in terms of the exits, and there are advances in sectors that are slowly, but at least starting to emerge. The second thing I kept is that there are specific competitive advantages to the country. So went through a lot of on the engineering side, on the talent side, on the work ethic, and also kind of the productivity of people, etc. And the third thing that I've kept from our discussion, which you all echoed, is that it is a journey that starts from the need to create. It continues and it requires a lot of resilience, a lot of resistance, a lot of perspiration from the entrepreneur side. And what happens as a success is kind of the reward for a lot of hard work and a lot of consistent work. So congratulations to all of you for the companies you've built so far. And I look forward to hearing what you build next within this setup or the next. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you to everyone from the audience as well. And of course, MITEF and Hellenic Innovation for organizing this event. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot. Bye.